Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nicky Vaux, and I'm your host. I am a boat owner, a marina owner, a director on the Marina Industries Association, and a huge advocate for boating. In this series, I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there, enjoying the waterways. So let's let off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. So hi everyone, we're at the final day of Sanctuary Cove Boat Show. It's a beautiful sunny day. It is a little bit noisy here, so just bear with us. There's the odd helicopter flies over and these beautiful flags flying next to us, but just bear with us on that because I have somebody that I adore here today that I am going to talk to. She actually works with me on my Girls Getaways business, Venus Getaways, as my Byron Bay consultant, or she's my Byron Bay division. Let's call you the Byron Bay division, Kaylee.
Sounds good, thank you.
So Kaylee Porter Smith is with me, but she's got an interesting background we're going to chat with her about. So Kaylee, welcome to the Boat Princess podcast.
Thank you, Nikki. It's beautiful to be here.
So we're going to ask you about your career, because you're now doing what you're doing and you have a small child to look after at home and all that sort of thing too. But let's start back in the early days of your career. Can you give me some insight into that?
Good question, Nikki. I would say I started in 5-star at the age of 17 and then had a journey.
Can you explain what 5-star is?
5-star, I was working at the Hyatt Regency in Perth. So I was trained right to the top. So I was working in an exclusive lounge, which is access to the top 2 levels of the hotel. So straight away I was somehow picked up and managed to make my way up there. And from there, that just gave me so many opportunities from where I guess my career, my life took me. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, you trust and you give. Or I learned a lot about service and people back then, and it was just a really great way to see how, you know, any doors can open, and then that led me to travelling around the world.
Travelling around the world, that's quite a statement. So
it is.
Let's run with that. Let's go into that one.
Especially after COVID. I took off. I did my studies. I went to uni and did tourism and marketing, so business degree. And I started in hotels and worked, you know, in that 5-star area as well. That gave me basically a ticket to work over in Canada. I started over there in Whistler. Whistler, I loved it. I had never seen snow before. You didn't know this about me. Living in Perth, the most isolated city in the world. I had never been to the East Coast to see snow, and 21 went straight there, and whether I liked it or not, I was there for a season, and I managed to get a job lined up before I arrived, and that was working with a Fairmont chain.
Oh, lovely. The Fairmont
at Whistler.
Oh, that's my best friend's favourite hotel in the world.
Isn't it gorgeous? And Lake Louise, and the best thing is once we were in staffies, we could stay anywhere for $60 a night in Canada.
The advantages of the hospitality industry, folks.
Absolutely. And there I went straight to the top again and worked in the equivalent to the Regency Club at the Hyatt. So I had that training background behind me. So amazing views of the mountain. I wasn't downstairs in the cafes, I was up the top. So same thing, doing like the breakfast service and evening drinks and canapes and hostessing. So I was 22 then.
Wow. And then from there you went into the boating world, didn't you?
Well, I went over to London, and that was kind of the journey back then. Canada to London, or I went from London to Canada. I went over to London and I got into, my background was like event management, got into the corporate world, and I did that for about 18 months. And then I'm like, I'm kind of over this city scene and I love the ocean. So I decided to literally pack up my bag again, a backpack on me, and I headed straight to Antibes in France.
That's a beautiful part of the world.
That's
and what did you
gorgeous.
find in Antibes?
Antibes. So I literally arrived, before this, I have to add, I had some insight from an Australian captain working over in, had been working in the Mediterranean for quite a few years. He gave me a few tips. He said, before you arrive, make sure you've done your S2W13, if I can recall that correctly. So before I left London, I'd gone and studied for 2 weeks and did my training. So I had that certificate behind me, and plus my 5-star, and I went to Antibes with a backpack. I got there and the morale was quite low actually. I just arrived after a lot of the yachts had recruited. And I had a lot of Australians around and people around going, you're not going to get anything. I went, okay, we'll see. I'm here for a reason. Within 10 days, basically, long story short, I had a job as a stewardess on a 50-metre motor yacht.
Just a 50 metre?
Just a 50, straight in. And first thing they said to me in the interview, are you starstruck? Do you get starstruck? I'm like, oh, I don't really know. I'm 23. So basically we had Rod Stewart. He was our first guest. And I went straight in, Rod Stewart, and he was getting married to Penny Lancaster. So quite an amazing story. I just went straight in, not knowing anything. Pretty amazing, actually. And I just had to trust, and I knew what I had behind me. And a whole new industry, but yeah, it was an incredible 6 months.
So, look at that. That's the boating industry right there, the background. So, I'm hearing some determination there, Kaylee.
Yes.
You had some people say to you, "Oh no, don't bother. You're not going to get a job," and you said, "No, actually, I'm here and I'm determined to do something." So that's a character strength that you have. Where do you think that character strength has developed in you? Is it somebody in your life that's given you that determination?
Great question, Nikki. I have to say a lot has come from my family background. My dad's probably been a bit of a risk taker when it comes to business. So I've always kind of had his back no matter what. And he's always, I've given me deep here, I've always been his butterfly. So
Love
that's, that. Yeah. So no matter what, even my age now, I'm in my late 30s, I'm still always be his butterfly. And he's just given me that, to follow your dreams. And it was actually scary to leave early 20s from Perth, from that isolation, did it on my own, and learnt a lot about myself in those early years. So, and then I slipped back to life in Australia, of course, but it was those years, I think, myself as well, that the strength came from within too.
Growing up in Perth is a pretty remote space to grow up in, so that gives you a certain, I guess, sheltered view of life. So going over to Europe like that as a young woman, that was a pretty ballsy move on your part. And do you think you really grew up in that period of time?
Second part, definitely, yes. I can still remember exactly how I was feeling in certain points where I could have been completely terrified, going, all I've got right now is myself and this moment. I have no idea what's in front of me. Like sitting with a backpack on my back, or leaving all my beautiful friends from 9 months in Whistler going, I'm following my journey, I'm going to London, I'm being caught, I'm doing that. Sitting on the Greyhound buses and then going off on my own journey. And that was all pretty much before social media.
Yeah, and even were mobile phones a regular thing at that time or not?
I have to say, it was actually Hotmail. The Hotmail account. I still got that. Talking about, I first started 2005. Was not really that long ago.
See, she's so much younger than me. She's a baby.
Thanks. Really? You're doing amazing. Of social media and everything, like catching up. You look fabulous. Take that one. No. I think that was the biggest thing, and my best friend back then, was the internet cafes, and we would sit there. I think it was just booking backpackers.com or something like that to the next destination, at least have a night planned. That's how we lived. There was nothing else. There was no... What are we only talking about 15, 16 years ago?
Yeah, and when you go back to when I was backpacking, another 20 years before that, I wrote back to my mum and dad sort of once a week. And that's the only way they knew I was okay. Right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford the phone.
Yep.
Because in those days, it was how it was monitored.
Wow.
It was that you pay for X amount of time to ring England from Australia, and it was really expensive. So a backpacker, you couldn't afford to phone mum and dad, and you were at different places, so they couldn't phone you either.
That's
so
right.
it's incredible. And now we're following our kids on Life 360 going around the world. So it's completely different to what it was. So that was a really brave move that you did doing that. So tell me about, you've got into the super yacht industry. You're a stew on, and we call them stews. I know that sounds terrible.
I guess I was, yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that term stews, but it is used.
Yeah.
On a super yacht. Can you tell us a little about a day in the life of working on a super yacht?
Good question.
Can you think back that far?
I can. It's still quite fresh, actually. I can remember a lot. So basically, a stewardess, your role is there's 3 divisions within the boat, and the stewardesses take care of the whole interiors of the yacht. Whereas let's say the males, the typical scenario, they work on the exteriors. So that's your deckhands, and it goes all the way up to your first officer and your captain. So there's very much a hierarchy in the interiors in your stewardess. There's head stew, depending on the size of the yacht. There was a second stew and then 2 juniors. I was a junior. I went straight in as that. So we were responsible for laundry, cabins, and service. So we were basically, I'm going to say this, we're probably the most highest paid toilet cleaners. You get told, it's cold, to do that, cabins. There's laundry, and I thought I wouldn't like laundry, but I actually started to enjoy laundry because I had that time, that solitude to myself.
It's quite therapeutic doing laundry, isn't it?
It's incredible. Like next to the coffee machine, down in the crew mess, we call it the crew mess, crew quarters. You don't have to face people and like your head stew or, demands, or it was, especially if you had a few drinks the night before. But of course not in charter.
Of course not.
No. So, so I guess it was a rotation for us. Cabins, and we'd all, quite interesting, we wear walkie-talkies as well. So that was our communication. So we were basically the ghosts, let's say the fairies, however you want to say it, behind. So no guest we would get told, could not see us. So we couldn't, being in that junior role, we weren't able to talk to guests. We couldn't ask questions, but if they spoke to us, we'd respond. That's how we were actually trained.
And when did your day sort of start and finish?
So if we were on service, so I didn't get service, so we had to kind of prove ourselves before we would go into service. You'd wake up, breakfast early, set up breakfast, so that would be like 6 a.m. potentially to have it all ready for 7 a.m. And when you're on the service shift, you wouldn't go to sleep until the last guest went to sleep. So it could be quite into the earlier hours of the morning. You have a break, but during that break, you just want to sleep.
And
so
do you do 5 days, 6 days, 7 days? How does that work?
It depends on charters. So that's the busiest time. So we wouldn't have a break. We would be rotated in our shifts. Would it be laundry, cabins, or service? So sometimes we might have 2-week charters. We could have a 5-day or 7 days. But because we were in the Mediterranean, we would go for fairly big journeys, so anywhere probably between 10 to 14 days. And we were just on. But the beauty of that, though, is, of course, we had our time off afterwards. And when we would have time off in these amazing places like Saint-Tropez, that's what I loved about the yachting industry, when you weren't doing service, more the interiors, you would be able to go off and be in Saint-Tropez or Capri and have a few hours to yourself. And I loved that because I was just, no one knew me. I could just really be and explore these incredible places that I wouldn't be able to do as, let's say, a young traveller.
Can you share with me some important qualities you think you need to have if you're going to work on a super yacht?
I think definitely that determination, that strength, that willingness to, I say do the hard work. It is hard work. It's long hours, but you also get the rewards of amazing travel. Living on the ocean, that's what I was sharing earlier today at the boat show. Like, I just loved, that was my sea change from the city, living on that, waking up with the ocean around you, and when you have those moments to yourself, you're like, wow, this is amazing.
Australians are very egalitarian, and being on a super yacht is the crew of the crew and the guests of the guests is a very distinct division between the two. Did you have any problems adjusting to that whole approach as an Australian?
Yes and no. I think from my 5-star training, I kind of was exposed to that at a young age. So it really helped me to deal with that. What I loved, though, it comes down to people end of the day. There were some amazing guests on board and they wanted to connect, like Rod Stewart. Like, we went to have a photo at the end and I was the first one to kind of take my order and stand there ready to have the photo. He came back and he stood right behind me the whole time making jokes. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't really talk. But it was just nice, I think. And I talked eventually, because we were on the charter for 2 weeks. I said I was from Perth, and I was able to talk more in the evenings when you weren't kind of being, I won't say watched or under the protocol of what it is to be a staff member, crew member. So, you take it, and there were some amazing friends, I got to say, that I've met in the industry, and the crew, we had each other's back. So that was really special.
That's nice. So it's not all like below decks.
No, there's depends who you are, Nikki. Definitely depends. I think I was quite humble, a little bit naive, but also still had grown within myself a lot. So it comes down to different people that you work with. You can trust some people, and some others you can't trust as much. Yeah. And that's how friendships grow. So I feel like there was still a very loyal connection to people, and I loved that. Yeah. It was just long hours.
Just for those listening, that boat toot at boat show, that means they've just sold a boat. So you need to know that. And then at the end of show, I don't know if we'll be here for the end of show, but at the end of show, we do all of them. So it's a really good moment at boat show when boat show ends to it. They do all the hooters across the boats, yeah. So I'm just going to finish up with thank you, Kaylee, for bringing coming to see us down
Thank
at
you,
Boat
Nikki.
Show, because Kaylee lives at Byron Bay, and she is our Byron Bay division for Venus Getaways, and she is bringing all of those beautiful 5-star skills to our getaways with her care and her attention and those brilliant organisational skills we have, and we're really grateful for that. But most of all, she's a very beautiful soul, and it's lovely to know her and to have her in our world. So thank you, Kayla Porter-Smith. It's been lovely to see you.
Thank you, Nikki. I can't really say much back to that. It was incredible. Oh my gosh, you had a tear there. That's a lot of comments, compliments to take. Thank you. Pleasure being here, and I'm just so grateful to be here amongst beautiful women. And yeah, didn't really know what to expect today, so this has just been incredible, and I'm so grateful to be connecting back to the yachting industry too.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. This is the Boat Princess out. I'll see you on the water soon. Thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you. Okay, lovely to meet you. Take care.
Well, that was lovely catching up with Kaylee at Sanctuary Cove Boat Show. She is such a delight, and that was one of the few boat shows we managed to get in 2021 thanks to COVID. Such a great event, and I really enjoyed catching up with so many people there. The super yacht industry is one in which women can truly travel right to captain, and probably the easiest place to start looking for a career path in that space is to go to marinejobs.org.au. That is a site that is a collaboration of the Boating Industry Association, the Marine Industries Association, and also Super Yacht Australia. So it's the perfect place to start looking for your career in super yachts. It's a wonderful space that really truly teaches you the epitome of service, and is a great basis for any career and to travel around the world and see some wonderful sights whilst enjoying some really special time on the water. So I hope you have a great weekend, everyone. It has been delightful to be in your ears as always, and I will see you on the water soon.